The history of Fiat begins in the heart of industrial Italy. On July 11, 1899, a group of Italian entrepreneurs, engineers, and aristocrats founded the Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino, or simply Fiat, in the city of Turin. Among the founders was Giovanni Agnelli, who would soon stand out for his vision and leadership, becoming the main figure behind the company's growth. In 1900, just 1 year after its founding, Fiat launched its first car, the 3.5 HP, a two-seater with a rear engine, no reverse gear, and a top speed of 35 kilometers per hour. Only 8 units were produced, marking the beginning of industrial automobile production in Italy. During the early years of the 20th century, Fiat grew rapidly. In 1903, it produced 135 vehicles, and by 1906, it was already exporting to the United States and other European countries. The brand became a symbol of Italian engineering and began participating in car races, which boosted its fame and prestige. In 1908, Fiat took a bold step by opening its first factory outside Italy in Poughkeepsie, New York, becoming one of the first European automakers to operate in the US. At that time, Fiat was considered a luxury brand aimed at the elite, and it became the best-selling European car in the American market before World War I. On the technical front, Fiat invested heavily in innovation. By 1910, it was the largest car manufacturer in Italy and one of the largest in the world, expanding into industrial engines, trucks, trams, and locomotives. In 1911, it began producing airplanes and aircraft engines, solidifying its presence in the technology sector. With the outbreak of World War I in 1914, Fiat devoted much of its production to the war effort, manufacturing military vehicles, trucks, ambulances, weapons, and airplanes. This period was crucial for its industrial growth, but also marked the company's closer ties to the Italian government and a more strategic role in the country's politics and economy. By the end of the war in 1918, Fiat was an industrial powerhouse. With modernized factories, accumulated technology, and a strong reputation, the company was ready for a new leap. In the following years, it bet on mass production and developed more affordable models such as the Fiat 501, aimed at a broader audience. In 1923, Fiat inaugurated its largest and most ambitious factory to date, the Lingotto complex in Turin. A modern 5-story building with a rooftop test track, it symbolized the company's industrial power and modernity. It was one of the most advanced factories in the world at the time, inspired by Ford's mass production principles, but with a touch of European sophistication. By 1925, Fiat was no longer just a car manufacturer. It had become one of Italy's largest industries, employing tens of thousands of people and directly influencing the country's urban, social, and economic development. Giovanni Agnelli, then president of the company, was already a central figure in the Italian industrial scene, with strong political influence. After consolidating its position as the leader of the Italian automotive industry, Fiat entered the 1930s with ambitious expansion plans. By 1926, the company was already an industrial powerhouse, thanks to the success of models like the Fiat 501 and the impressive Lingotto plant, which had become a symbol of Italian technical progress. During the 1930s, Italy's political context changed radically with the rise of Benito Mussolini's fascist regime. Like other major industries of the time, Fiat became integrated into the national effort for modernization and militarization. The company collaborated with the government, receiving incentives and public contracts to develop military vehicles, weapons, and aircraft engines. Despite this, Fiat did not abandon civilian cars. In 1932, it launched the Fiat 508 Balilla, a compact and relatively affordable car aimed at Italy's middle class. The Balilla was a huge sales success and became an icon of Italian mobility between the wars. During this period, Fiat also expanded operations outside Italy, establishing branches and exporting to various European and Latin American countries. In the railway and aeronautics sectors, Fiat also grew. It created Fiat Ferroviaria and Fiat Aviazione, focusing on trains and aircraft engines, solidifying its presence as a diversified industrial conglomerate. With the start of World War II in 1939, Fiat was once again mobilized for military production. Its factories produced tanks, military trucks, aircraft engines, and weapon parts. The company was considered strategic for the Italian war effort. During the conflict, many Fiat facilities were bombed by the Allies, especially between 1943 and 1945, severely damaging the company's industrial infrastructure. Moreover, the war had a deep impact on the company's leadership. Giovanni Agnelli, Fiat's founder, was removed from command due to his ties with the Fascist regime, and the company came under supervision by Allied-appointed authorities after Italy's liberation. Agnelli died in 1945, shortly after the end of the war, marking the end of an era in the company's history. In the post-war period, Italy faced destruction, unemployment, and economic crisis. Despite being weakened, Fiat was still seen as essential to the country's reconstruction. With the support of public policies and the Marshall Plan, the company launched an ambitious plan to rebuild and resume production. In 1947, Fiat strongly resumed the production of civilian automobiles, focusing on simple, economical, and reliable models. A highlight of the period was the Fiat 500 Topolino, originally launched in 1936, but revitalized after the war for its low cost and efficiency. The Topolino became a symbol of popular Italian mobility and helped get the country back on track. By 1950, Fiat had re-established itself as the largest industry in Italy and one of the most important in Europe. Its integrated business model, with car, engine, aircraft, train, and tractor factories, made it a key player in the country's reconstruction and Europe's post-war industrial resurgence. After the post-war rebuilding phase, Fiat entered the 1950s ready to grow. Italy was experiencing the so-called Italian economic miracle, a period of rapid industrial development, and Fiat was one of the engines of this growth. In 1951, the company fully resumed production with new models, modernized factories, and a clear goal-mass motorization. A milestone of this period was the launch of the Fiat 600 in 1955. Compact, affordable, and practical, it became the car of the Italian working family, symbolizing mobility and progress. But the true icon came 2 years later, in 1957, with the launch of the Fiat 500, known as the Cinquecento. Small, cheap, and charismatic, the 500 was a game-changer. It became the symbol of modern Italy and helped Fiat reach millions of consumers. During the 1950s and 60s, Fiat grew rapidly. It opened new factories, especially in southern Italy, as part of a strategy to reduce regional disparities, and at the same time, it strengthened its image as a national company. It employed hundreds of thousands of people and accounted for about 5% of Italy's GDP. In the 1960s, Fiat also went international. It established factories or partnerships in Latin America, including Brazil and Argentina, India, Turkey, the USSR, and several European countries. In 1966, Fiat do Brasil was created, becoming one of the company's most important operations outside Italy. Fiat's influence extended beyond the automotive sector. The group had divisions in aviation, armaments, agricultural equipment, and even publishing and construction. Giovanni Agnelli had already passed away, but his grandson, Gianni Agnelli, took the lead with charisma and global vision. He became the face of Fiat, a symbol of modern Italian capitalism and a respected figure in the global political and economic scene. However, growth did not come without tensions. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Fiat faced strong labor movements, with strikes and protests demanding better working conditions. In 1969 alone, over 15,000 strikes were recorded in its factories, a reflection of the social unrest shaking Europe. This episode became known as Italy's Hot Autumn. Still, Fiat continued to innovate. It produced popular models like the Fiat 124, which won the European Car of the Year award in 1967 and was licensed for production in the Soviet Union as Lada. The Fiat 127, launched in 1971, introduced modern technical solutions such as the transverse front engine with front-wheel drive. By 1975, Fiat was more than a company. It was an industrial empire. It employed over 400,000 people, produced more than 1 million cars a year, and operated in dozens of countries. Despite social challenges and the oil crises of the early 70s, Fiat was considered a symbol of European industrial power and one of the world's largest automakers. In the late 1970s, the company was still an industrial giant, but faced economic crises, high inflation, and political instability in Italy. Fiat dealt with frequent strikes, threats from extremist groups like the Red Brigades, and rising production costs. Even so, it continued producing successful models like the Fiat Ritmo and expanding its international presence. In the 1980s, the company diversified even more, investing in technology, IT tractors, and even the banking sector. However, its automotive division faced growing competition from Japanese brands, which offered more reliable and efficient cars. In response, Fiat launched models like the Uno in 1983, a sales success in many countries, including Brazil. In 1989, the Fiat Tipo introduced advanced electronics to the European mid-size car segment. During the 1990s, Fiat remained Italy's largest automaker and one of the main players in Europe, but its profits began to fall. Despite good models like the Fiat Punto from 1993 and the Fiat Brava from 1995, the company suffered from poor management, excessive bureaucracy, and difficulties adapting to new global market demands like safety, energy efficiency, and build quality. By the late 1990s, the Fiat Group was burdened by its massive structure with dozens of divisions and brands including Lancia, Alfa Romeo, Iveco, Ferrari, and Maserati. Though still powerful, Fiat was already showing signs of weakness, which would become more evident in the 2000s. In the early 2000s, Fiat entered one of its most difficult phases. Its automotive division accumulated successive losses, lost market share to more efficient competitors, and struggled with an outdated product lineup. Models like the Fiat Stilo from 2001 failed to meet expectations, and the company faced serious financial problems. The situation worsened in 2004 with the deaths of Gianni Agnelli in 2003 and his brother Umberto shortly after. Leadership passed to Sergio Marchionne in 2004, a determined executive who completely restructured the company. Under his management, Fiat underwent cuts, reorganizations, and a total strategic overhaul. The turning point came in 2009 at the height of the global financial crisis. American automaker Chrysler was on the brink of bankruptcy, and Fiat surprisingly took control of the company with support from the US government. Initially holding a minority stake, Fiat gradually increased its share and, in 2014, completed the full merger, forming Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, with headquarters in the Netherlands and global operations. This new phase brought more competitive models and a new global positioning. Brands like Jeep and Ram, part of Chrysler, became extremely profitable and boosted the group's earnings. Fiat also remained relevant in Europe and Latin America with cars like the redesigned retro-style Fiat 500 and compact models aimed at emerging markets. In 2021, another major change took place. Fiat Chrysler merged with the French PSA Group, owner of Peugeot, Citroën, Opel, and other brands, forming Stellantis, the world's fourth largest automotive group. The new company includes 14 global brands and focuses on transitioning to electric vehicles, technological innovation, and production efficiency. Today, Fiat remains an important brand within Stellantis, with a strong presence especially in Europe and Latin America, notably in Brazil, where it has led the car market for years. Its current focus is on urban mobility, compact and affordable cars, as well as electrification and connectivity. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.